Welcome back to Stories Aloud, where we uncover the wisdom hidden in the world's most thought-provoking books. Today we journey into The Art of Loving by Erich, from a powerful reflection on what it really means to love. Fromm reminds us that love isn't a feeling to fall into, but an art to master, a discipline that shapes how we live, grow, and connect.
It's such a foundational shift in perspective, isn't it? Fromm really saw that most people, well, they want love desperately. They have these huge hopes tied up in it.
Right.
But they fundamentally misunderstand what it actually is. So our goal today really is to unpack his main argument, that love is something you learn. It takes knowledge. It takes effort.
And maybe explore why, especially in our modern world, so many attempts at love seem, well, doomed from the start.
Exactly. He points to some key psychological and, frankly, societal reasons why we often fail.
Okay, let's get into that core idea then. Why does Fromm think most people fail at loving? He seems to believe we're operating under some fundamentally wrong assumptions. What are we getting wrong?
Well, he boils it down to about three main mistaken premises, and they all stem from seeing love passively, like something that just happens to you, not something you actively do.
Yeah, what's the first one?
The first is that people focus almost entirely on how to be loved or how to make themselves lovable.
Ah, okay. So less on the loving part, more on the being loved part.
Precisely. Think about it. People pour energy into becoming successful or attractive or having pleasant manners or boosting their sex appeal. It's all about making yourself desirable.
Like building a better product to attract a buyer.
That's a great way to put it. They treat being loved as a result of having the right mix of, popularity and attractiveness, rather than cultivating their own inner capacity, their own strength to actually do the loving.
That really makes you think. And it seems to tie directly into his second point, which feels incredibly relevant today, this idea of the marketing orientation.
Oh, absolutely. This is the belief that the problem of love is finding the right object to love or be loved by, not mastering the skill, the faculty of loving itself.
So the difficulty is finding the perfect match, not becoming a better lover yourself.
Exactly. It's consumer culture applied to relationships. You're essentially shopping in the personality market, looking for the best package you can get based on your own perceived value.
That sounds pretty transactional.
It is. Fromm connects it directly to our modern appetite for buying. We're looking for a bargain. The other person needs to be socially desirable, valuable, and, crucially, they also have to want you, considering your own assets and limitations.
So falling in love becomes this moment where two people feel they've found the best possible object they can attract, given their own market value.
That's Fromm's rather stark assessment, yes. And you can see echoes of this everywhere, can't you? Especially maybe in how online dating works, optimizing the profile, the package.
Right, the constant swiping and filtering is literally sorting through packages.
It fits perfectly. We polish the package, not the person inside who needs to, actually learn the art.
Okay, so that's two mistakes. What's the third?
The third is confusing that initial, intense, often overwhelming experience of falling in love.
That sort of head over heels feeling.
Yes, that intoxicating feeling, confusing that with the permanent state of standing in love.
Yes.
Which requires sustained effort and commitment.
That initial intensity, the sudden feeling of connection, must feel amazing, especially after feeling lonely.
It absolutely does. But Fromm has a warning here. He says the very intensity of that falling might just reveal how incredibly lonely you were beforehand.
Wow. Not necessarily the depth of the love itself.
Exactly. It's the sudden relief from anxiety, the breaking down of walls between two strangers. But that initial intensity is, almost by definition, temporary. It's not the same as the ongoing practice of loving.
Okay, so if love is an art, like learning music or medicine, or even carpentry, as he suggests, what does it take to actually master it?
Well, like any art, he says it requires three fundamental things. First, you need mastery of the theory. You have to understand the facts, the knowledge behind it.
Okay, learn the principles.
Second, you need mastery of the practice, and this means a lot of practice. Consistent, dedicated application over time.
Makes sense. Theory and practice. What's the third?
This is the one he thinks we often miss, and it's maybe the most important. The art must become a matter of ultimate concern.
Ultimate concern. Meaning, what exactly?
Meaning that, for you, mastering this art becomes more important than almost anything else. He uses the example of music or medicine. If you really want to master it, it has to be central to your life.
You can't just dabble.
Right. If you're learning piano, but you're really more focused on making money or being popular or gaining power, you'll never truly master the piano. It takes prioritizing it.
And Fromm argues that's where modern society fails with love. we don't prioritize it.
That's his core critique. We pour enormous energy into learning how to achieve success, wealth, power, all these external goals, but we spend almost no focused energy on learning the art of loving because collectively we just don't seem to think it's as important.
That's a pretty sobering thought. And it leads right into his bigger picture, doesn't it? His whole theory of human existence, where love is presented as the answer to our fundamental problem.
Yes, his theory of man. He paints this picture of humans emerging from sort of the harmony of nature, losing that instinctual connection.
Leaving the Garden of Eden, symbolically speaking.
Exactly, and finding ourselves suddenly separate, uncertain, indefinite, and profoundly alone.
And that feeling of separation is the root of our problems.
For Fromm, it's the source of all anxiety, all shame, all guilt. It's an unbearable prison, this awareness of being separate. He brings up Adam and Eve again. Their shame wasn't about nudity, he argues. It was about recognizing their separateness from each other without yet having found the reunion through love.
So our deepest human need is to overcome that separateness.
Yes, it's the most powerful striving we have. Because if we fail, the alternative is, well, potentially insanity, the sheer terror of complete isolation.
So if that's the core problem, how do we typically try to solve it? You mentioned most attempts fail.
Right. We find these temporary, often inadequate solutions. He outlines a few common ones. One path is through what he calls orgiastic states.
Orgiastic states, what does that entail?
Think intense, often violent, but definitely temporary states of fusion. This could be through auto-induced trances, certain rituals, drug use, alcohol, or even sexual orgasm without love.
Oh, okay. Intense experiences that make you forget yourself for a moment.
Precisely. They offer a fleeting escape from the anxiety of separateness. But the problem is, they're transient. And often the feeling of separation afterwards is even stronger.
Which can lead to addiction.
Exactly. When these aren't part of a shared social ritual, they often manifest as individual addictions. Alcoholism, drug addiction, compulsive sexuality, trying desperately to recapture that brief feeling of union.
A temporary fix that makes the problem worse. Okay, what else?
The most common solution, especially in modern society, he argues, is herd conformity.
Herd conformity. Just blending in.
Pretty much. Achieving a sense of union by minimizing your differences, by disappearing into the crowd, conforming in your job, your clothes, your opinions, your entertainment.
So you feel connected because you're the same as everyone else.
But it's sameness, not oneness. From stresses, it's a pseudo-unity. It feels calm. It's dictated by routine, especially in our standardized, machine-driven world. Standardized work, standardized fun.
It sounds kind of bleak, like trading authenticity for comfort.
It can be. It keeps the anxiety at bay, often just below the surface, because you avoid the terror of being different, of standing out, but it doesn't truly solve the problem of separateness.
Okay, and there was a third failed attempt.
Yes, creative activity. Productive work. There can be a kind of union achieved when a craftsman works with his materials, or an artist creates something.
A connection with the world through making something.
Right. It can be fulfilling, but it's not interpersonal. It doesn't bridge the gap between people. And Fromm adds that even this is diminished in modern work, where people often feel alienated from the final product, like just a cog in a machine.
So orgiastic states are too temporary and potentially destructive. Conformity is a pseudo-solution, and creative work isn't interpersonal. Where does that leave us?
It leaves us needing what Fromm calls the mature answer. The only full and healthy solution is achieving mature love.
And how does he define that?
He defines it as achieving interpersonal union, fusion with another person, and this is absolutely crucial under the condition of preserving one's own integrity and individuality.
Wow. So union without losing yourself.
Exactly. That's the great paradox he talks about. Two beings become one and yet remain two. Mature love is this active power that allows you to break through the walls of your own isolation, to connect deeply, but without having to erase yourself or the other person.
Okay, so love is an activity, a standing in, not just a feeling. You said it's primarily about giving, not receiving. That feels counterintuitive to how many people think about love.
It really does run counter to the common view, doesn't it? We often think of love as needing something, being filled up by someone else's affection.
Right. Receiving love makes you feel good.
And Fromm doesn't deny that receiving love feels good, but he insists that the act of loving for a mature person is primarily about giving. And crucially, he distinguishes this from sacrifice or depletion.
How so? Isn't giving about giving something up?
Not for what he calls the productive character, the person who is psychologically mature and integrated. For that person, giving isn't a loss, it's the highest expression of their own vitality, their potency. It actually makes you feel more alive, more joyful, more powerful.
So giving generates energy rather than draining it.
Yes. Giving brings life to the other person, and in reflecting back, it enhances your own sense of aliveness. It's not a zero-sum game. He even says, love is a power which produces love. Impotence is the inability to produce love.
That reframes it completely. Giving is an act of strength and abundance, not lack.
Absolutely. It demonstrates your vitality, and it tends to awaken vitality in the other person too, creating this positive, life-affirming cycle.
Okay, so this active giving, mature love, he breaks it down further, right, into 4 core components.
Yes, 4 basic elements that are all interconnected. They depend on each other. The first 2 are care and responsibility.
Care seems straightforward. You care about the person you love.
Right, but Fromm emphasizes its active concern. It's concern for the life and growth of the person or thing you love. It's tangible. If you say you love flowers, you water them. If you love another person, you actively nurture their well-being and development.
He mentions the story of Jonah.
Yes, to illustrate that love implies labor. You work for what you love. And conversely, you come to love that for which you labor. Care isn't passive well-wishing. It's effort.
Okay. And responsibility. That word can sometimes feel like a burden.
It can, but Fromm defines it very specifically here. It's not about duty imposed from outside. It's a voluntary response to the needs, expressed or unexpressed, of another human being.
Voluntary response, so being able and ready to respond.
Exactly. To be responsible literally means to be able to respond. It requires awareness of the other's needs, both psychological and physical. And because it's voluntary, it avoids becoming mere duty or, on the other end, possessiveness or domination. You're responding to their needs, not just your idea of their needs.
That leads naturally to the third element, doesn't it? Respect. How do you care and respond without, taking over?
Respect is the key to that balance. Fromm defines it as the ability to see a person as they are in their unique individuality and to want them to grow and unfold for their own sake.
Not for how they serve you or fit into your life.
Precisely. It means the absence of exploitation. You respect their otherness, their autonomy. You want them to become who they are meant to be. And this requires that you are independent too. You can only respect someone if you stand on your own feet without needing them to prop you up or fulfill your agenda. He says love is the child of freedom, never of domination.
That makes sense. Care, responsibility, respect. And the fourth element is knowledge.
Yes, and this isn't just surface-level knowledge. Care and responsibility would be blind without it, and respect would be empty. Knowledge, in this context, means penetrating to the core of the other person.
Seeing beyond the superficial.
Way beyond. It means transcending your own concerns, your own projections, to see the other person in their own terms, from their perspective. If your partner seems angry, for example, knowledge means trying to see the fear or hurt underneath the anger.
So it's about empathy and deep understanding.
Deep understanding. Fromm believes this loving knowledge is the only way to truly know another human being, to know the secret of man, as he puts it.
He contrasts this with a much darker path to knowledge, doesn't he?
He does, chillingly. He talks about the desire to know another's secret through cruelty, through sadism, by having complete power over them, breaking them, forcing their secret out through suffering.
That Isaac Babel quote he uses is quite shocking.
It is. The officer trampling his former master, saying, "Shooting is too quick. You'll never get at the soul. I want to get to know what life really is." It's the horrific alternative. Love, through care, responsibility, and respect, offers the only constructive path to that deep, intimate knowledge.
Okay, so those are the components.
Yeah.
Now, from him talks about different types or objects of love. He starts with brotherly love.
Yes. He sees this as the most fundamental type, the foundation for all others. It's love between equals, based simply on recognizing our shared humanity.
It's not exclusive.
No, quite the
Right.
opposite. It extends to everyone. It's rooted in the experience of human solidarity, recognizing the core identity we all share beneath the surface differences. He says it begins with feeling for the helpless, the poor, the stranger, the marginalized, but ultimately encompasses all human beings. If you can't experience this basic human connection, your capacity for other forms of love will be limited.
Then there's motherly love. What's unique about that?
Motherly love, in its essence, is unconditional affirmation of the child's life and needs. Just the fact of their existence is affirmed. Fromm talks about 2 aspects: providing milk, which represents the care and security needed for survival and growth.
The basics, the nurturing.
Right. and providing honey, which represents instilling a sweetness for life itself, a joy in being alive, a feeling that it's good to be here.
That's a beautiful image. But he adds a twist, doesn't he, about the real test.
Yes, this is crucial. The true achievement of mature motherly love isn't just nurturing the dependent child. It's the mother's willingness, even her desire, to eventually facilitate and support the child's separation from her.
To let them go, become independent.
Exactly. To love them enough to want them to become their own person, fully separate and autonomous rather than remaining narcissistically attached. That ability to support separation is the hardest and most vital part.
That really highlights the theme of respecting individuality again, which brings us to a really interesting, often confusing area: self-love versus selfishness. Fromm makes a sharp distinction.
He really does, and it's vital. He argues passionately that love for oneself and love for others are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're completely conjunctive. They go hand in hand.
How does that work? Many people think loving yourself is selfish.
Fromm points to the biblical command, love thy neighbor as thyself. The implication is clear. Love for your own self is not only permissible, but necessary. Respect for your own integrity, your own uniqueness, your own growth and happiness is inseparable from respecting and loving others.
So the selfish person doesn't actually love themselves.
According to Fromm, absolutely not. The truly selfish person is fundamentally incapable of loving anyone, including themselves. They are driven by a deep-seated lack and emptiness, anxiety, and often self-hatred.
So their focus on themselves comes from insecurity, not genuine self-love.
Precisely. They're constantly trying to grab things from the outside, attention, possessions, pleasure, because they feel fundamentally lacking within. They don't love themselves too much. They love themselves too little. They haven't developed that inner richness, that productive orientation that allows for genuine giving, either to others or to themselves.
He quotes Meister Eckhart.
Yes. If you love yourself, you love everybody else as you do yourself. It beautifully captures that idea that genuine self-affirmation naturally extends outwards.
This whole framework, the productive character, genuine giving, respect for self and other, leads him to a pretty stark critique of love in contemporary Western society. He wasn't optimistic, was he?
No, he saw the prevailing structures of mid-20th century capitalism, and arguably things have intensified since as largely unconducive to the development of mature love.
Why specifically?
Primarily because of alienation. He saw modern individuals as increasingly alienated from themselves, from their work, and from each other. We get turned into commodities, our value judged by our success in the market, our personality package.
And when that happens, what takes the place of real love?
We settle for pseudo-love forms, things that look like connection but aren't. One example he gives is the idea of marriage as teamwork.
Teamwork sounds positive, no?
It can be, but Fromm saw danger. He called it an egotisme à deux, basically, an egoism for two. It's an alliance where two isolated, anxious individuals band together against a hostile world. They pool resources, offer mutual support, manage life together.
But lack genuine intimacy.
Exactly. It functions like a well-run corporation, providing shelter and efficiency, but the individuals remain fundamentally strangers, protecting each other's sensitivities, but never truly meeting at the core. They mistake this functional partnership for real love and fusion.
That's quite a critique.
Yeah.
And what about the role of sex? Society had become more open about sex by the 50s.
Right, and there was this growing belief, influenced partly by misinterpretations of Freud, that if you just fixed the sexual repression, if people had satisfying sex lives, then love would naturally follow.
Fromm disagreed.
Strongly. He argued the exact opposite is true. Sexual satisfaction and happiness are the result or expression of love and deep connection, not the cause of it. Trying to generate love purely through sexual activity, he believed, was bound to fail.
Why?
Because without the underlying care, respect, and knowledge, sexual union remains just a transitory physical act. It might provide momentary release or illusion of closeness, but afterwards the sense of separation can return even stronger, sometimes mixed with shame or emptiness, precisely because it wasn't rooted in genuine love.
And he also touched on how unresolved issues with parents play out in adult relationships. Neurotic love.
Yes, he saw many relationship problems stemming from people remaining emotionally fixated on a parent figure and then projecting those needs and patterns onto their partners.
Like the example of the mother-centered man.
Exactly. A man who hasn't successfully separated from the need for unconditional, all-enveloping motherly love. He then seeks partners who will provide that same kind of admiration, validation, and care without demanding much responsibility or reciprocity from him. He's looking for a mother, not an equal partner.
So he can't form a mature relationship because he's still stuck in that earlier stage.
Right. He hasn't achieved the independence and capacity for mutual giving that mature love requires. The failure to navigate that separation process we talked about earlier really hinders the ability to love maturely as an adult.
It really comes back to this idea that loving is an art demanding, well, the highest level of personal development, discipline, maturity. It sounds like a lifelong practice.
It absolutely is a constant process of becoming, not a state you just arrive at.
So we've talked about the need for discipline, concentration, patience, all things needed to master an art. But Fromm adds one more crucial element at the end, doesn't he? Something we might overlook.
He does. And it's subtle, but maybe the most profound point. Beyond all the practice and theory, he says we absolutely must cultivate sensitivity to ourselves. And part of that is keeping alive a clear vision, an image of what complete, healthy, mature human functioning actually looks like.
Holding on to the ideal of what a fully realized human being is.
Yes, what does psychological health look like? What do mature human traits like courage, integrity, the capacity for love itself actually entail? We need that vision.
I feel like a really important final thought for us to consider. Why is holding on to that vision so critical?
Because, from Warrens, if our culture becomes completely consumed by achieving status, money, technical success, if we lose sight of that image of the integrated, loving human being, then our entire effort, our entire society risks breaking down, even with all our technical prowess. If we forget what it means to be fully human, to connect, to love, we lose our foundation. We have to actively protect and cultivate that vision of mature life.
The art of loving teaches us that love begins with awareness of ourselves, of others, and of what it means to give without losing who we are. If this exploration moved you, share it with someone who believes love is more than emotion, and subscribe to Stories Aloud for more reflections that feed the heart and mind. Until next time, keep listening.